Okay, folks, welcome back. And we are almost 100% operational. Just trying to get this room in order. It has been a challenge because work is super busy, and I think I did the final touches here to kind of get it up and running. But this is half of the painting area, or this is the old table here. This is what I had before, and I have a whole new one on the other side as well, which has the adjustable height and everything. But we're going to try to do this with just the camera on the computer, which should be better resolution, and hopefully it's coming through okay. I know this time isn't ideal because most people are working. I have today off because I have to use, there you are. I have to use the rest of my vacation days. I work for a place that does not let you carry any over or pay you for them. So I'm not working any more Fridays this year. So anyhow, what else? Yes, I got most of this area pretty much in order. We did a test feed about a couple weeks ago or a week ago, and the speed on it seemed to be pretty good. That's the big wild card I'm worried about was the connection speed. We went from a cable modem to using a T-Mobile box 5G, and I think the tower was just due north of here, so it's working pretty well. So I've been told, and just kind of want to get in the habit of doing this again. I should be on again tomorrow morning. I took the car in for service, the wife's car in for service today, so we'd be able to have a fresh start tomorrow, and we should be good to go, and on Sunday as well. So we can get back in the habit of doing this. I don't know what the hell I'm going to start with because literally, towards the end there, we were just kind of. I was just kind of playing, idling around, just seeing what I could finish. So I've got a lot of half-built projects. The airbrush area is not ready in the garage. There's still boxes in front of it, but it'll be a nice setup area. And although I'm still a noob to airbrushing, we'll eventually do some stuff out there. But I got some T34s. It's probably going to be the first thing I'm going to do is get back on there. Hey, wardrobe. We'll get what a view, clean looking room, glass I'm getting back. Yeah, this room is something else. It's actually significantly smaller than the other one, but significantly better. So one of the things I have here is this is one thing I ordered. This is my old paint setup here that I had, and I've alien taped it up to hopefully it doesn't come back. I didn't screw it onto the wall because it has these tiny little holes that doesn't seem. So this is the old paint area. So I decided to put all the craft paints here and all the odds and ends things here. And then from Etsy, I got this, which is a 218 color Vallejo type thing. And it's the hardest thing I've ever put together in my life. So throw any model kit out there, and I'd rather build that model kit than put another one of these things together. It's made out of MDF, and even with sealing, it turned out okay, but it took a lot longer than it should have. And everything fits in here. Now, I wanted to get these off the desk. The whole idea is to get every single thing off the desk. I still wasn't able to do that, but I got most of it, because what happens is when you end up doing like tufts and stuff like that, you get residue and it gets pushed in different areas, and I should be able to brush this off and vacuum everything. I want to keep order here so I don't get distracted, but all the Vallejos I have, the AK paints, and the odds and ends of the, is it War Painter? Is that what it's called? Army Painter. Army Painter ones that I have should all fit in there. Yeah, I'm just running with the one camera right now. Do I have a good gaming space in the house? I don't. I have a room, I have a spare bedroom that I can set up tables if need be, but I do have an island in the kitchen that measures 42 inches wide by 90 inches wide. So I think one day when the wife is gone, I'm probably going to do a solo game on there. It's pretty massive. Yeah, I don't have wired internet. I don't. No, so we live in this is kind of out in the country, so to speak. Not really. It's the same town I live in, but they don't have, again, same story. This is an older neighborhood. This house is only 2 years old, but this is an older neighborhood, and they don't want to run fiber through here. So my options are Windstream wireless internet or the 5G, and the 5G is working pretty well. So that's what we're running off right now. I've got two, and hopefully your feed's coming in okay. But this is half of the painting area. The other half is, I got this on a cool little mount here. We can rotate this around. The other cool thing is I have no light. The lighting seems to be pretty good in here, and this is just operating off the lights that are on the roof. That's it. I got 4 of these LEDs up there at the top, and that's, I don't have my alt light, because even if you turn your alt light on, which is this right here, that I've used for many, many years, it doesn't really do that much. So we're just going to kind of wing it and see what happens. This is the other area. This is the other table that actually rotates up and down. I've got them both at the same level, but this one's actually independent. I can rotate, I could literally bring it all the way up here. And I'm probably going to do that when we work on models. So the idea is paint over there, work on models over here. So we'll get to use both. I've got a few clutter things that I really don't want out here. But so far, so good. I also have a nice window here towards the outside. Rotate all that way out. That's my front yard. And so between the natural light and everything, this is a pretty good space. The only catch is the back door here. It is a barn style door, and leads into the rest of the house. So if there's a party going on in there, you guys are going to get residual noise. Luckily, there's only one other person living with me right now, and she said she's going to keep it down. So anyhow, the display area here, with all the tanks, all my World War II stuff, the lighting in here is so much better than the other room. I don't even need a lighting in the case. I mean, I don't know if you could tell it right now, but they look really good in here. And I haven't even put my ancients out. They're still in boxes, so we won't be working on that anytime for the near future. We're going to be doing World War II all the time. So hopefully you're a fan of that. If you like my ancient stuff, you know, well, sorry. I did it for 18 years. Now, I'm not going to, what the hell happened here? Oh, did we lose a feed or something? Did I press something I wasn't supposed to? Rotating this thing over. Let's bring this back. Well, something happened and I don't know what it is. Like I said, I'm not clueless to technology, but technology, they keep changing shit. And since I'm not in the know, let's try doing something else. Let's do this. Let's close that window. Okay, let's come back to this window. I don't know why this disappeared. Now I'm getting all right, let's do something else. I'm still streaming, but there's no picture on my end. So let me know if you still see a picture on your end. And I don't want to end the stream. I'm not interested in doing that. Overlays. Yeah, I can't see anything. My screen's completely blank. Let's move this over. Yeah, I've got this spinning icon where it's spinning this stuff and nothing's happening. All right, let's do this. Yeah, you see me. I don't see you guys at all. So oh, but yet you still sent me a freaking ad. All right, how about this? What's this? No. Let's do that. No. Not App Store. Overlays. Studio mode. No. There we go. I don't know why that happened. Okay, cool. All right, so speaking of World War II, I picked something up, and I always like to show off the stuff that I have. Not because I'm bragging about it, but because it might be something you might like. So I ended up selling a bunch of stuff I didn't need, old video games and stuff like that from many, many years ago. And at a place called Second and Charles, and I had a bunch of credit on there. And I'm like, well, I went in there and saw if I was anything I can use, and they've got this Order Battle of the Red Army World War II for $10. So I'm not sure who this is by. Amber Books, but got some organizational stuff. You know, pretty nice. I figured, what's the worst thing I could do? I wasted $10 of credit. You know, AFV strength Western Front by unit and by, you know, by KVs, BTs, T-34s, T-26s. Battle for Moscow, different stuff in here. Maybe there'll be something in here that I'll find of use for something, you know. Typical World War II stuff. We just buy shit and then we sometimes look at it. But a lot of stuff that's probably available on the internet, but it's all in one place. So it almost looks like it'd be like an Osprey group type of book, but it's not. You know, it's not very generalized. Amber Books. Yeah, I don't know how old this book, 2009, so anyhow. So, cool little thing to add to my World War II selection. Mr. Hoffman, yeah. So, we've got a couple different things. I decided to get rid of the blue thing. I didn't. I'm leaving it outside, but I'm not going to bring it in here. And I got this. It's a little bit more color neutral. So when we do unboxings and stuff, it's not so this bright ass blue. But as always, I'm not going to be cutting on this because these things were expensive. Well, the other one was free, and I still didn't cut on it. I still haven't put every single thing away, but enough that we're still going to do the old cardboard over this, so if something gets nasty, it's the cardboard. But we'll add this to our World War II book repertoire. Recently learned of the Triumph rule set and thought of you. Have you played them? A DBA variant simplified. Yes. Yep, it's the same people that we played with at Historicon that were doing DBA, and they split off and did their own rule set. And you know, it's not better than DBA 3.0, I think. It's definitely organized well, but you know, it has still some of the same problems. So, but I don't know very many people that play it other than in their area up there. And our intention was actually to play DBA in Florida, DBA 3.0 in Florida, and play Triumph up there with those guys. And the rule set came out. We played it. And just before Historicon, and I forget which year this was, we'll call it 2017. It was either 2016, 2017. You know, we're going to Historicon. So, okay, let's start practicing playing Triumph because we don't want to get there and feel like we don't know what the hell we're doing, slowing down games. And, you know, it's like showing up to play a game of that you're not familiar with the rules and you're just screwing everything up. So we imagined going back to it. And 1 week before the convention came out, they had all these other rule additions, all these rule changes. So we had to learn how to play that again. And, you know, we went up there and we did fine. And then the next year we did it, same thing happened. You know, they would wait until a week before Historicon to make these changes. And it just ended up being too much trouble. And the people in Florida didn't want to try it. And Mitch and I didn't think it was better than 3.0. There were some things that were cool in it, but you know, it's not an improvement, I don't think. And it is a DBA derivative, but they don't mention DBA in there. It just, you know, I I know the guys that did them, and they're good guys. I just don't like how they went about it. You know, they shouldn't have charged for it, and they should have mentioned DBA. You know. So anyhow, have you ever shopped at a site miniature market? They're having a liquidation sale. I've heard of it, but I've bought a few things, but I am really in the mode of I don't want to buy something that I'm not going to use. I knew I wanted to get something for the Vallejo paints, and this was like $70. It was really expensive. And it was a pain in the freaking ass to put together. Because it was MDF and it fit in so well that you almost had to bang it together. But then you still had to glue it with wood glue, and you had to wait for that to dry. And then you needed to seal it, but you needed to seal it before, because otherwise, you know, if you pull these things out, you're not going to be able to tell. But it's white all the way through. I didn't want MDF showing in there. I'm just anal like that. And, you know, I'm only going to have one of these, so it might as well look nice. It took way too long to put together. And it was pretty expensive. But, and I was wondering if it was even going to hold together. Because there's no, like, it wasn't like it had screws or pegs or anything. It was literally MDF, and they were slotted, but they were so tight, it was just a pain in the ass. And I wanted to seal it because I've heard that if you spray over on top of it, it's just going to soak this stuff up. So I tried one piece that was going to be on the inside, and sure enough, I got to seal it. So get your polyurethane, and it took forever to dry. I was expecting the project, I was expecting putting this together to take about 2 hours, and it took like 4 days. So, I mean, obviously not complete, you know, 4 days times 24 hours to do, but I did need for things to dry. So I was kind of bummed on that. So I wasn't going to get one for the craft paint. I already have these two things here. I'm like, let's go ahead and put them to use. There's no point in not using the stuff you have unless it just totally doesn't work with what you got going on. I did have this little white thing to put the brushes and stuff. I'm like, I ditched that. It just didn't work. This is better. And, you know, I just have a minimum of things that are going to be on here. I definitely wanted a desk that rolled up. But the powered ones were like $300 more than the one that you just crank by yourself. And honestly, it's not something you're going to be moving up and down all the time. It's not like, okay, on the hour, we're going to go up to 48 inches, and then the next hour, we're going to drop down to the 30. It's not going to be done that often, and it's just one less thing to break, you know? So, and I couldn't get another one of these because I bought, this is an IKEA desk for like $99. Don't make it anymore. They don't make this thing, and it's not adjustable at all. It can be cranked up and down. I've always had it cranked up as high as it'll go, 36 inches. So the other one's at 36 as well, but I think it'll go almost to like 50 inches. So I can literally stand up and do that. So we'll probably do that kind of stuff when we're building models and stuff like that. So, but the coolest thing I think about this room is, and I hope it's not too much of a mess, but we'll see, because this is still a work in progress. And again, the reason this is on Friday, I'm surprised any of you guys are here. I appreciate you guys being here because it's, you know, it's a work day. I'm not working any more Fridays. I was going to take a vacation at the end of this year, and we were going to go to Europe, and then our cruise got canceled. Whatever, it's all good because it didn't happen at the last minute. But I got these days that I got to use up. So anyhow, so this is the crowning glory of this room, and this came with the room. The people who had this were using this room as a pantry. The kitchen's right outside here. And this is what they were using as a pantry. And I'm like, well, I can get rid of my bookshelves and have all my books and stuff here. You know, the only thing is it's pretty deep. So if you want to get any of these books back here, you're going to have to get on a step ladder. Up there, these are all reachable. So that's all my naval stuff up here. And my World War II stuff is here and there. Ospreys here. And all my ancients and everything else are on the other side, you know. And then these are all full because I have a bunch of millions of projects that are in the process of being used, of being done. Is, you know, for work in progress, you know, we've got those little grippy things on here, but, you know, I've got some Panzer IIIs here that are complete. They're just waiting to get painted. All this stuff was primed. You know, I plan on getting a little bit more, start this finish it, you know, just like I did the other stuff last year. But it's just with the moving, I knew the impending doom of moving was going to happen. I'd moved in 20 years. So there's 1, 2, 3. I think this is an IKEA unit that they put in here, and this thing is just freaking awesome. You know, you got. This is probably one of the first things I'm going to do is here's the T-34s. So. By the way, video's choppy now, basically showing us, and you pick 2 to 3 seconds. Is the sound clear? Well, I am doing a download at the moment that I can't stop. Probably for the next hour and a half or something. So that may be what it is. Yeah, these cup holders, you got to get these. These are available on Amazon. IKEA also has them. I have 2. Only one of them's installed right now. They're like $15. And I have 2. One of them for my drink cup, because I'm always putting stuff in my mouth while I'm doing my show. I drink a lot, and I mean liquids. I don't mean alcohol. I don't drink enough alcohol. So, and I use another one for my paint cup. So then it's difficult. It's easy to. Oh, and that's with the mic being on this side. Let's flip the mic over here. That's with the. You're able to, you're not worried about knocking the water over, you know? So, anyhow, what else? We won't have that download tomorrow morning. This is just I'm just kind of killing time and just seeing how this is going to work. Some of these they really don't have a lot in here. They just have drawers on here, and the other one, I guess, is full of the armies. I haven't decided where I'm going to put them yet. I may use this display case for only World War II stuff. And that's probably the direction I'm going to go in. The old display case you guys never got to see because it was in the main room is here. It's an IKEA thing. I don't want to turn it because there's some things on there, but it has a glass cabinet, and that was in the main room in the other house. It's a highly sought after. IKEA doesn't make it anymore. They haven't made it for several years. It's called a Burtby, and it was really cool because it has very little space between the shelves, so you can get a lot of armies. That's all where the DBA armies were. I'm probably going to put them back and store the other ones. But you know, we're not going to sell them or anything. I'm not playing DBA anymore, and I don't know that I have a whole lot of interest in finding another rule set that's going to make me happy. Because it's going to keep me from doing World War II stuff that I haven't done since, well, I did last year. That's all I did last year. The second half of the year anyways. But that's what my goal is now, is to work on stuff that I haven't worked in since the early 2000s. So that's really my thing. I always just say, I'm a World War II guy. I say, well, why are you working on Ancients? Well, it just kind of freaking happened, you know. And I learned a lot of cool stories and history along the way. So it's not like it's, you know, like shame for me for, you know, not being in World War II for a while, you know, but that's where we're at. We got quite a few things built. We got about 100 we got more than 100 vehicles done in a year. About 85 or 90 of them completely painted and finished. And probably another 50 or so built. So that's going to be really my goal, is to get those guys finished. To clear up some space there, and of course, you know, get more stuff. I got all my figures, all my 20 millimeter figures that need to be retrofitted with a new basing, because they all look, I'm happy with them, but they're all done like we used to do stuff in the 90s, which is, you know, paint the base green and dip it in Woodland Scenics, the powder stuff, which I don't do shit like that anymore. And many people don't, and it's all because of the internet. You get ideas from somebody else, but where are they anyways? I got about 60 or 70 figures already painted from the late 90s. Well, here's some of them right here. Let's see if we can pull this out. We had a couple of casualties in the move. Nothing major. A couple of the Panzer IIs probably had glue on them that was kind of brittle, and the barrels fell off. No big deal. And unfortunately, the French house cracked in half, but it's not even noticeable. So it's just because it's too damn brittle. But this is my these are my World War II figures. They just need new basing done to them. Like my French resistance guys that do have it. You know, these guys are all, see, where's the camera on this thing? You know, these are all done in a modern method as opposed to these guys that just have green paint and you just put them in the, you know, the sawdust looking woodland scenics foam finish stuff. So I'm going to scrape this stuff off and then put them with the mastic, put them on magnets. So we can actually, I got this divider wall that I can't get it on the camera, but it's magnetic, and yeah, we could play a game horizontally. Pretty cool. But these all need to be retrofitted. Here's an SU-152 that's ready to be painted. My Gasland stuff. You know, I basically had to decide, you know, if I'm going to get my if I'm going to do anything with my World War II stuff, I need to concentrate on that, and that's what I've decided to do. So I'm not going to do any Gaslands. I'm not doing DBA, you know, that's what I'm going to focus on. That's what I'm going to focus on going forward. Actually, I haven't played DBA since October 1, 2022. So, and have no regrets. Have no regrets. And as a matter of fact, I was just going back and forth with emails with somebody that I communicate pretty frequently with, and he didn't know that I didn't do DBA anymore. And he's like, what happened? I'm like, dude, I've only mentioned it 15, 20 times on videos. I really don't want to make a, hey, I don't want to play DBA and this is why, because that just sends the wrong message, like I'm unhappy with the author or something like that. It has nothing to do with that. So I've had a lot of really good years with it. I'm just ready to do something else, you know. And I've been to 2 conventions that I normally would be putting on all the DBA games and haven't done DBA, and I've been a lot happier. I got 0 responsibilities to put a bunch of stuff together, make a bunch of things for everybody, and then folks come up with excuses why they don't show up. Sure, there's, you know, what? It's noon. I'm not at work. Joe, I'm not working any more Fridays, man. Now I can say TGIF. You know, I always said TGIF was created by some bastard that works 410s. Well, now I'm that bastard. For the rest of the year anyways. So, you know, that's what the plan is. We should be back on tomorrow morning and Sunday morning as well, and get back in the habit of doing those again. I just don't know what in the hell I'm going to work on. And, you know, talking about, you know, you forget about things when you don't do things frequently. I forgot what colors I used for my Russian tanks. Like, I mean, I know what color I used, like, for the dry brushing. Like, I got these T-34s. This is probably the next thing I should do, is to finish up these T-34s. I'm almost certain that's what I'm going to do. And they're to the point where they need to be dry brushed with the weathering. And I don't remember what color I used. I want to say it was dark sand, but I could be wrong. Yeah, these guys right here. And we're just running one camera right now, the one in the computer, which should be better quality than the other one. I got like these 5 or 6 T-34, late T-34 76s and T-34 85s. And I don't have a fan in this room, and I don't think I'm going to need one. This is the coldest room in the house. Thank goodness. What time tomorrow morning? I should be on by 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Shouldn't be on by 6 a.m. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. So I just got to remember which turret goes with which one. So we can hit the ball running tomorrow. But I think I stopped in the middle of, I knew the move was coming. And it's like, once you know something like that's happening, my motivation to do anything above and beyond just went out the window. Let's put on the readers. Yeah, okay, these are T3485s, the rubber wheels. We still got to paint the rubber wheels. Cool. And these are T3476s, these three. Okay, that makes sense. All right, so this is like bam, 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 and then these two up here. Yeah, there's a little bit of paint chip on them in a couple places, but it's no big deal. So that's what I was working on before I stopped doing the whole painting thing. But I don't know where I'm going to mount the lights, honestly. I got 2 OT lights. And if I'm going to work here, well, we can do a test run of it right now. I can stand one of them up here and see if my lighting situation improves any. I don't know that it will. And I've got a bunch of Russian trucks that have been built, but I got to get the airbrush cranking for that. I don't have to. It works better if I do that with that. Let's use the same OT light we were using before, just so we can see if that's gonna work okay. Like, I've got these pedestal mounted ones, 4 mounted, I guess is what they're called. I don't really want to buy one that clamps on the table because I already have these and I render these unusable. As soon as you buy something and you replace it with something else and you don't use what you replaced it with, you basically just spent money to not use something. It's not like they're broken or something. Not like they're going to be any brighter than new ones. Let's see what we're looking at. I'm plugging this in over here. Because before I used to have it, but it came in from the back. Yeah, so we could easily do this and this, and let's see what we got. It's going to take a little bit of time to warm up. But this lighting above me is stellar. It really, really is. Wait for this to warm up. And that may be just what I do. I got a floor mounted one. If we're working over there, we'll bring, actually I got another lamp there. If we were to lose this is going to look more in line of the setup that I had before. Come on, warm up. And this may actually be what I need to do just so I can have a focal point. It focuses your attention in this area when you don't have everything's lit the same way, kind of like a spotlight. But we do have the other camera to put on there, which is the phone. But this is what we'll be working on first. And this one has markings on it. This one doesn't. This is the only one I put markings on. And it looks like we painted the tracks, even in the rubber wheels, and that's where we stopped. We have the tracks and the rubber wheels painted on this one. And the tracks and the rubber wheels painted on the... Okay, so we haven't messed with the T3485s. All right. So we should finish these guys up first. Yeah, I don't remember what colors I used to use for the... for the groundwork. To mix in with this base color. That one I don't remember. The groundwork is my famous 3. Let's go ahead and grab them. How's the video working for you guys? Is it still choppy as shit? All right. Look at that. Right off the bat, grab the right one. Nope, Buff. Buff is Iraqi Sand's cousin. There's Iraqi Sand. And then the dark tone, which actually isn't in this. Let's grab an example. It's already done. Let's grab this SU100. Yeah, it just has this dry brushed on it and then a little bit of Iraqi sand dry brushed on top of it. Still choppy. Yeah. I can't do anything about that unless I stop that download. I don't want to do that. All right, let's attempt to do something today. How about that? That sound all right with you guys? Do something productive. I threw away a crap ton, and I do mean a crap ton, probably half my brushes, which should have been thrown away. I'm just really bad about, I'm really bad about throwing brushes away. I just don't. No. It's 58 degrees here this morning, which allows me to wear shorts and a long sleeve shirt, which is my preference. I don't like wearing long pants when I'm on my day off. I have to wear enough long pants when I'm working. All right, let's see. We have one of these that we've started off that we don't mind cutting up for dry brushing purposes, but we're just going to have to use. Here we go. We already got one that's already had things happen to it. So let's cut off a little piece of this. You know what I don't have? I don't have a water cup. I don't have a new water cup. I'll be right back. You know, I'm not a huge fan of sushi. But my favorite sushi place is this one place that gives these free cups, and my wife's always like, "Why are you taking those home? We don't need any more plastic cups." Well, we do now. For that, what's the one other thing that I needed? Well, I don't have my paper towel thing here. Damn it! That's what happens when you get started. Okay, we got this. We got this. Let's move this cup holder. I don't know where the second one is. It's somewhere, no doubt. Let's move it under here. Cup holder goes here. All right. And a good dry brushing brush that will soon be violated and not worth a shit. Okay. Yeah, I am definitely a fan of a minimum of chaos. A minimum of chaos. I wonder if I can I do a zoom on this? Can we zoom in with this? Am I smart enough to do that? Probably not. Probably not. Let's see. What if we do this, and then we angle this more like that? Yeah, we'll have the second camera running tomorrow. But I wanted to, man, I've been jonesing to do some painting. I haven't painted in like 2 months. So I've been angry all the time. I haven't had my creative juices that I've been able to be creative and put me in a good mood. This is one of the two colors that we dry brush on, and this is also on the base color or the base stand of the vehicle. I know one thing that's actually, kind of not a really a point of contention, but a thing that makes people go like, "Why did you do that?" Is stands. Why do you put your vehicles on stands? It's like, well, I got to put the figures on stands, and you have to put some vehicles on stands. So at that point, do you want some of your vehicles on stands and some not, or do you want them all on stands? So for the sake of consistency, I want them all on stands. It's funny because my anti-tank guns, they won't be on stands. They will be, because you may have to put the anti-tank gun in a place where it's tight and the stand is not going to allow it to actually be in the place where you want it to be. So the anti-tank gun's not going to be on stands. The crew members are all on individual, pennies type stands. So, if you got an annoying anti-tank gun that's, you need a blast or something like that with rifle fire or something like that, and they take some casualties, you can mark off the guys that are, you can knock out the guys that are part of the problem. Hey, Mr. Jeffrey. Sorry about the choppy feed. If you're getting one, I'm doing a download at the same time, and there's not much I can do about it for the time being, but tomorrow morning it will not be an issue. But this is the first painting I've done in like 2 months, 3 months, maybe 3 months. Hope I remember how. Yeah, I don't think that's the case. It's just a matter of what colors did I use? I was doing something a while ago. I wanted to save some 15 millimeter figures that I needed to continue them. And this box, I'm going to end up redoing that box. And if there's an opportunity of doing something like a tool in like a natural handle or have it green, I mean, I know for a fact there were some vehicles that they went in there and said, okay, put all the tools on the vehicle, and then we were going to spray the vehicle down with the tools on it. I don't like to do that because it's an opportunity of adding a little bit of color to the vehicle that's otherwise drab. So I'm going to go back and actually paint that as a box. But let's make some progress here. So we say that we did something. But the other thing is that I'm going to be gaming at a scale that most people are not used to gaming at. And that's 1-to-1 scale. And I do mean 1-to-1. I mean, it's his actual freaking scale. So in other words, these two tanks, if they're here, it's an inch equals 2 meters. So these are that far away from each other. So, and you're not going to have all these vehicles all at one time on the board. I'm painting stuff, and it's just like the guys that build models and they never do anything with the damn models. Well, these are opportunity to do something with these vehicles. But I'm not playing a 1-to-5. I'm not playing rapid fire, or what's the other thing that they like to play? Flames of War. That stuff's not for me. It's too Too, it's not what I want to simulate. It doesn't interest me. It doesn't motivate me to build things for the game because the game is so lack of flavor for what I'm looking for. Might be a fine game, but it's like probably the same thing a lot of people thought about DBA. Oh, DBA is just too vague, and I don't feel like building building medieval stuff for it or ancient stuff for it. I get it, you know. If I'm in a game with these things, then it's going to be, how I want to do it. So that's probably enough. You could always make them dirtier, but I do like the vehicle to at least look like some part of it was green. We also have another dry brush color to go on top of this. So you can't go the whole hog on this and then be like, oh man, it's all brown, now what? Well, you still have this color to put on top of it. Okay, and here's the turret that goes along with it. But we will have a dedicated airbrush station outside. The previous owner left me like a workbench. It's already made. He made it or whatever, and it's about 4 foot tall, and it overlooks another window. That if I want to, I can get one of those spray traps. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't need to spend a couple $100 on that. I didn't have one before, and I've pretty much mastered how to not make a mess while airbrushing or eating the fumes. So I think we're just going to have that as an area where you can my airbrush stuff is out there, but that area is not reachable right now because there's boxes in its way. So one thing I hadn't realized, one of the worst things about moving is we have a shit ton of boxes. Like when you're done, you have a shit ton of boxes. And we don't even have that much stuff, but we end up making quite a few purchases for the house that we had never purchased before, ever. And it just entailed a lot of building stuff and a lot of empty boxes. So, definitely lots of trips to the recycler, because I'm not going to hold on to the boxes for another 20 years before we move again. Hopefully it's that long. All right, we'll do the same thing with the next one. It's funny because it almost looks like it's got a brown camouflage on it. It actually looks pretty nice. Or I'm happy with it. It doesn't matter if other people like it. You have to like it, or it's going to keep you from work on the hobby anymore. But I'll say it again, what's important to me is to have these sessions. The game session is not that important to me. Gaming is not therapeutic. It's fun, but it's not therapeutic. Working on stuff like this is. So I haven't gamed with the guys in about, I want to say June. Might even be longer than that. And I'm just not in a hurry. I'm not in a hurry to game on frickin'. That's not true. I went to the convention, but here in town, I'm not in a hurry to kill myself after work to try to rush there to get a game in to be rushed. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'll game face to face at conventions if that's what it comes down to, or put on a game here whenever I get around to getting everything ready for it. But that's not an end goal really. It'll happen when it happens if it happens. So main thing is I need to have my I need to do some creativity stuff. That's what I've really been missing. But I took the car in for service, and I did one of the things that I don't usually do very often because it takes time from doing something else. That is to watch a movie, which I don't actually do much of. So on Amazon, there's a movie called, I want to say it's called Road to Berlin. It's a Russian movie. And I'm about halfway through watching it because they got the service done pretty quick. But one of the things that was memorable about it is they had some pretty interesting mock-ups in there. The Russians actually do a pretty good job in their movies of doing mock-up vehicles. You know, nothing's perfect, but they had a mock-up KV2 that looks like they used. And I tried to actually, while I was watching it, take a screenshot because I wanted to post it on Facebook, you know, for the rest of you tread heads who could appreciate it. But it wouldn't let me do that. But the movie has a mock-up KV2 that looks like they used a T-72 as the bottom of it. But it looked pretty convincing. I mean, they at least tried to make it look like what it's supposed to do. I mean, some of the German tanks are in yellow, and it's just supposed to take place in 1942 or some point. There were some yellow teeth Panzers in southern Russia, but they didn't have shirts in on them. These are yellow and have shirts in on them. They're mock-up Panzer IVs or whatever, but they had that. What else did they have in there? They had something else that I was like, huh. They had a lot of German half-tracks, 3 or 4 of them. And I want to say it was something else. I forget right now what it is. But I was like, oh, I wanted to put a screenshot. But you can't do that. I guess it'd be a copyright infringement to take a screenshot of a movie that you're watching to post it. Hey, I was just trying to promote the movie. You know, it's not like I wasn't going to tell somebody who the movie was, you know. But I tried to do that a couple of weeks ago when I was watching Cross of Iron. I hadn't seen Cross of Iron in almost 40 years. You know, almost 40, maybe 35 years. I hadn't seen it in a long time. And there's a couple of things that really made me chuckle. One of them was there's a German mock-up 8-wheel half-track, like a 231, SDKFZ 231, pulling what looked like a crash boom, a Russian 76 millimeter gun. And I wanted like, oh man, I got my tread heads got to tell me what that is. You know, I got to show this to my tread heads. They'd appreciate it. And I couldn't take a picture of it. I'd have to play it on TV and then take my phone, take a picture of the screen, you know. You know, I'm always bugging you to watch this movie, but recently Jason the Argonauts is free on YouTube to watch. Okay. I know you're bugging me to watch it. I swear I haven't avoided it on purpose. It's one of those Harryhausen things, right? Which I'm a fan of. You know, I don't do black and white movies. Disclaimer. I have seen black and white movies, but maybe 4 of them ever. And I don't plan on adding any more to it. Foreign movies, big fan of foreign movies. Big fan of old movies, not a problem with them. You know, they just got to be in color. They just got to be in color. So, YouTube, Jason and the Argonauts. I got to remember to do that. Oh, I guess I should have put the numbering on this one. Well, we'll go back and do it. Fuck it. I'm on a roll. I want something to show for this day. All right. Hey, you took the day off. What'd you do? Not a freaking thing. Nope. You know, those old movies, I can only watch them. I grew up in a relatively small town, under 100,000 people, but more than 50. And we have one TV station. And, you know, you got to watch it if it was playing. If not, you didn't watch it. Just like Sunday morning. Did I want to watch Lost in Space? No, but that's what's playing. So you either watch Lost in Space or you watch the 700 Club. Pretty much a no-brainer, you know? Now people have all kinds of options, but, you know, when I was a kid, I didn't want to watch Scooby-Doo. That was just the only fucking thing that was on, you know? It's either that or you don't watch anything. Just knew you could watch it. Now I saw on YouTube. I figured it would say something. I'll check it out, man. I'm always up for suggestions. Yeah, I like those. I'm not a big fan of CGI stuff because it doesn't really exist. But anything that brings like freaking models to life with like stop film animation is awesome because somewhere somebody has a model of a freaking skeleton or the Kraken or a Pearl Harbor in like 1/8 scale or something like that, where they had to build that kind of stuff. I appreciate that kind of thing. You're bringing a toy or something to life. I really like the concept of that. Which is also why I get a kick out of some episodes of Robot Chicken, where they take the action figures and do things action figures shouldn't be doing. But they never played that one. They never played. Well, they never played it, and I was aware that it was being played to watch it. Which is funny because this is how not familiar I am with Jason and the Argonauts. I didn't know Jason was a Greek name. It just never dawned on me, It just never, oh, Jason, that's not a Greek name. I mean, not like I'm named Jason or something. Maybe if I was named Jason, I would be like, oh, yes, it's Greek, but I've never watched it. I've never watched John Wayne as Genghis Khan. And, no big loss, but I've never seen that. I never saw, who plays Alexander? Is it Richard Burton that plays Alexander? I've never seen that. I've never seen the old 300 Spartan things. I was never into Roman stuff until I started playing DBA. I just, it's just kind of, I was a World War II guy. So if it was a World War II thing and it was on, I knew it. I never saw Rat Patrol. Rat Patrol wasn't being played on anything that we happen to have. I think at one point they had the black sheep thing, the Baba Black Sheep, a long time ago. I'm talking about, I think when we lived in Alabama in the 70s, they might have played that, but it's not like now where you have access to all kinds of different things. Oh, there is a movie on Amazon that I started watching it, and I got about 2/3 of the way through, and I had to stop. I kind of lost interest. I'll probably pick it up. And it's called Warsaw 44, and it's a Polish movie about the Warsaw Uprising, which I'm going to admit I don't know a whole lot about, other than very cursory details. And it's just a weird movie. And I mentioned it to somebody who's Polish, and they said, oh, well, they created that. Well, one thing I didn't like about the movie is they have modern music in it. Like, they've got, like, present-day music in it, which is that's a no-no as far as I'm concerned. But I started watching that, and I don't know why. I got a little bit more interested in it because I had just watched The Pianist for the second time. And I know I watched it a long time ago. I thought I remembered the movie. I didn't remember the movie at all. I didn't remember the movie one bit. So it was almost like watching a new movie for me. And so then I got this, the Warsaw in my head. So I'm like, oh, let's try watching this Warsaw 44th movie. And I don't know if you guys have seen it. I'm a little bit of a spoiler. There's a scene where they go, hey, we captured a German tank. And I am really familiar with all the Panzers, but not some of the ancillary other weird stuff, like a mine-clearing tank and that kind of stuff. And you recognize it. I'm looking at this tank, and I'm like, that looks like a big Goliath. The demolition thing. And sure enough, it was a demolition tank, and they went way overboard on what happened. It detonated at quite a bit of distance, and it was just something out of like a horror movie. I'm like, I gotta stop watching this thing. Sometimes you just know too much about a certain time period. You just can't enjoy it. Like some of you guys probably that didn't enjoy the Napoleon movie, which I can tell you that I was never gonna. I was no interest in watching it once they cast him. Now I don't have a problem with Joaquin, but just doesn't look like Napoleon. You know, I think he's a good actor. I just don't think he's Napoleon. So, just back. Oh, and you mentioned just seeing Napoleon. Not as bad as some people say, but I switched off my brain during the battle scenes. Trenches at Waterloo. You can skip the John Wayne Genghis Khan. The old 300 Spartan movie is all right. Nothing amazing. Yeah. Have you heard that there's, I don't know if this is just a sick rumor, that they're going to do Denzel Washington as Hannibal? Now, Denzel is a good actor, but I'm going to leave it at that. Um, Maybe if he, now, a couple years ago, they were talking about Vin Diesel doing it. Now, Vin Diesel looks more like the demographic that we think Hannibal was. So maybe if Denzel voices Vin Diesel, because I don't really want Vin Diesel to voice anything, maybe that would work. Um, but I'm fine skipping Hollywood history movies from now on. They have proven time and time again that they are not interested in educating people. You know, I hate the actor Napoleon, so skipping that movie. Yeah, I don't have a problem with him. I think he's a good actor, um, but he's just not. He's the wrong guy. They should do more of these movies with people that aren't really familiar. You're not really familiar with, you know, and then you're like, you don't have to like, oh, that's the guy that's in this, or that's the guy that's in that thing, or you know, he just doesn't look the part, you know. Um, Yeah, just skip all history movies from now on from Hollywood. Be right back. I need to get a refresher. Phoenix playing Napoleon is a bit like having the old version of Henry playing his younger self. I don't know what that means, but sorry, lost in translation. Everybody thought he was great in Gladiator, and I would tell you that lots of people could have played that role in Gladiator. Who was really good in Gladiator was the Australian guy, because he was just cast perfectly for that role. You know, I don't can't say that I really like him in anything else. Russell Crowe. I can't say I like him in anything else, but they definitely cast the right guy that you could root for. You know, and maybe it doesn't appeal to everybody, but I thought he was very relatable. Unlike Keanu Reeves in the John Wick movies. I mean, I hear he's a nice guy. I just think he's the wrong cast. He just doesn't seem badass enough for that role. Now, he does a good job, and I hear he's a nice guy in real life. But I would enjoy those movies a lot more if it was a different actor. Sorry, Keanu. But yeah, I was actually I woke up one morning about a week ago or a week and a half ago, and this guy had written this scathing review of Napoleon. I mean, he basically like went point by point, and this sucks, and this is why, and this is it. And then at the end, to give him his rating, he gave it a B minus. I'm like, you scathed it a little too much for a B minus, man. You were like doing like an F plus there, but maybe he just wanted a bitch or whatever. But Trenches of Waterloo, huh? Did they even? I'm not a Waterloo expert by any stretch of the imagination, but did they even show the battle there for that farm? Is it La Haye Saint? Is that what it is? Anyways, whatever the little farm is there. It'd be a travesty not to show that. Like doing Stalingrad without showing a factory. Which I didn't know. Again, I kind of left World War II for 2 decades, and I found out all kinds of stuff I didn't know. I didn't know, for instance, that in Stalingrad, and I'm not a Stalingrad junkie. There's not enough tanks there for me to be interested in Stalingrad. But I didn't realize that the Germans captured all 3 factories. The third one, barely towards the end, of course, everything else behind them, they're stuck in the pocket. But I didn't realize that. I didn't realize that they'd taken all 3 factories. So, and they captured like 95% of the freaking city. Like the city was basically theirs. Of course, their wings collapsed and then they got trapped in there, But I thought they were 2/3 of the city, maybe at the most. So. Okay, so that part is done. I am not in the mood to go look at different writings on the tank. Oh, I'm stupid. Let's do the other colors, the other color on top, instead of jumping on the other one. And I think I got the stands done for these guys already. Of course, they're probably hard as nails. I'm probably going to regret doing that, because this stuff hardens over time. I got lots of these stands done. I bet it's this one right here. Nope. And to chip this stuff off is going to be less than fun. Matter of fact, I'm going to do that right now. Let's grab the other 234, because I have them all on the same size stand. These are actually 1/76 scale. My preference is to use 1/72, but I got one hell of a deal on these. I got like 35 T34s or something like that for a steel. So I'm like, well, I guess we'll build them. I guess they'll be a little smaller. Nope, that's the wrong one. Okay, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. I bet this is the 5th one. Yep. Okay, cool. We'll set these all guys off to the side, put these other ones away. That'll be the stands that go with this vehicle. Yeah, it basically threw me for a curveball once I found out we were going to move. Like, okay, well, what can I do that's not too involved that I won't lose my place on? So I just started building models, because we needed to have everything off the table and stuff for people to see the house. It's basically a love story. Oh, of course it is. There's no La Haye Saint. It was like an ancient's battle with 2 battle lines clashing in the middle. The way the squares formed was the only par to get past marks. Yeah, A love story, huh? I heard the love story is about him basically being Josephine's bitch. I don't know. Remember they had an old TV movie in the late 80s, early 90s with Armand Assante playing Napoleon. It's called Napoleon and Josephine. I remember watching that as a young adult. And I can't remember what his acting style is, but he at least, I thought, looked like Napoleon. Hell, he's at least of Italianish descent, so, you got at least that going for you. But I think there was only a couple scenes in there with Austrians and stuff in there, but that whole thing was a love story angle. But when you think of Napoleon, you don't think of love story. It's just that's not what he was known for. I never did finish watching. I don't know what channel it was on when I was watching. I never finished watching the 95th Rifle series, whatever it was called, the one with Sean Bean in it. I didn't dislike it, but it felt like it was of an earlier time than it was. And what I mean by that is, within the last 4 years, I decided to show, sometimes my daughter is really good about watching historical movies and stuff that she's good, unlike the wife who's really bad at that. She admits it, but the daughter is actually really good. We just, matter of fact, just started watching. She's coming back up from college. We just started watching Generation War, and we're maybe 30, 45 minutes in it, and she's like, that she wanted to continue watching it, which is one of my favorite things that I've seen in a long time. But anyways, I'm like, hey, you probably like this movie, and I hadn't seen it in a while, and it is Last of the Mohicans. And Last of the Mohicans seemed really, really, really dated. I mean, it's from the early 90s, and the way it's filmed, just the way the camera style is done, it just seems like it's like almost like late 70s. It just, at least as far as we got in, we only got in like 20 minutes into the movie, and she was like bored, and I was too. And it's funny because I consider that to be a really good movie, but now that I'm looking back at it, the way that it was directed or filmed was very old. It's kind of hard for me to explain, but it was just like the camera angles, like, old movies would be like, there'd be one camera angle where lots of people would be having a conversation all at once instead of like focusing from person to person. It's just kind of hard to put your finger on it, but it was very distracting that it was done that way. But I don't think it aged very well. Sharp, yes. Mr. Waddy, yes. The Grand Battery scene was like a World War One battle with a French artillery bombarding the British in trenches and bunkers. Oh well. They should have hired what's that guy that they always what's that guy that's in the military that always does the consultant for the battle scenes. Of course, it's all like modern stuff. You know who I'm talking. Dale Dye. They should have brought in Dale Dye to straighten his ass out. So what you're saying is the Patriot had better battle scenes than Napoleon? Well, I didn't think it was going to be very good based on when I found out who was going to play him, because it just didn't seem like, that was the right cast. Because when you watch it, did you forget it was Joaquin? And you think, oh, that's really Napoleon? No, probably not. You know? You're over the wrong shoulder. Yeah, you're going to have to get used to it because the filming is going to be this way now. It's actually looking pretty good. Pretty good from this angle. I had to remember what colors I used. There's a little bit of chipping on the paint. We'll fix that up later. Just like I'm going to do the writing on this thing at a later date. There's so many ideas for T-34s. It's just overwhelming. And I still have a shit ton more to do. And for those of you just joining, yeah, it's choppy right now as I'm doing a download at the same time that I can't stop. Which is probably going to go on another hour, I would imagine. So, and I'm playing hooky today because I'm not working any more Fridays this year. Because they won't pay me for the days off and I can't carry them over. I'll paint the inside of that hatch and shit like that. But just get the main idea here. Wow. Maybe I'll like my painting even more in this new house. Don't mind that. Not that I had any problem with it at the old one. You have never forgiven Scott for the French landing craft during the invasion scene in Robin Hood. Oh, you bothered to watch that? Was that Robin Hood movie worse than the one with Kevin Costner in it? But why spoons? Why a spoon? Robin Hood has been done so many times. It's just like, okay, can you come up with something a little different? Is it Scott's fault that all that stuff is in it, or is it the writers? Is it the writers' fault? Was that done under a writer's strike, and that's what the problem is? Well, you're out. You're retired. Have to go to the bank. Nice to see you again. You're retired. You don't have any money in the bank. What do you go to the bank? I don't go to the bank. It's streaming very smoothly right now, so that does not bode well for the download. Well, you may have a point there. You may have a point there. I'm going to try to do something crazy in the future. I may actually try, because I think this connection's pretty solid. Yes, I'm going to say this, and I probably shouldn't. Since I got this 5G, it hasn't disconnected once on me. It is pretty freaking solid. But, it's... My phone would be the same way, if I could stream through my phone. But the problem is when when YouTube knows you're streaming through a phone, it dumbs you down to 720 max. But I want to try 4K in the future. I want to try to push this to 4K and see if we can do that. Because, hey, it's a 4K world we're living in. I got a 4K TV now. I want to be able to see my stuff better, I don't know if that's going to be possible. It's just going to use up too much bandwidth. It's not going to work, but it probably won't be doable tomorrow morning, but because that's like, just around the corner. But in the near future, I'd like to see if that's, a possibility. I mean, because my computer can do it. And it's just a matter of, can the bandwidth keep up? stream is better. Okay, yeah, maybe the download stopped. Apparently, Scott just ignored the historical advisor so he could go for dramatic effect. No. You know, we're history nuts. We want history to be brought to life, so we want to read more history. They just want to. They just want entertainment. They don't think that reality is going to inspire people to learn more about what really happened, and that's troubling. You know, because I'll watch a historical movie. The next thing I know, I'm reading about what really happened. You know. Like, I didn't even finish watching that Warsaw 44 movie, and I'm reading about the uprising, which I was kind of ignorant of. You know, I don't really, it's not really my forte. You know, so, you know, the story I'd always heard is that basically the Free Polish Army did the uprising, the Russians got wind of it, and they stopped their offensive. So they'd get massacred, and then, you know, and then they went after the Germans. And then, so I looked into that, and apparently some people were saying that wasn't the case, that, or that ignores that Model did some great counterattack that caught the Russians off guard, and they were at the end of their supply line. And, well, regardless of how you feel about it, it made me read into different ancillary. It made me go into different tangents reading about stuff. So I think that's a win, because that's what I want out of a historical movie. It's going to make me want to learn more on my own about different stuff, you know. I don't really game, even though I got 230-45s. I don't really game Eastern Front 1944 stuff. I never have. So it's not really something I've studied. But I will do stuff like, and I think I brought this up on the feed earlier. I got in there was like a free download through Amazon or something like that from some book on the Africa Corps or something like Armor of the Africa Corps or something like that. I'm like, oh, I'll check it out. I'm reading the foreword, and in the foreword it talks about the Germans having checked 38 tanks in North Africa. I haven't opened the book again, and I probably won't. I'm like, no, I'm done here. You fuck that up. Everything is questionable, you know. You messed up that basic bit of information. You can't be trusted. Well, you know, we weren't there. Maybe we were in a past life. I don't know. If you had a time machine, would you waste it to go back to Waterloo to find out if that what really happened? I'm not a Napoleonics guy, so I'd say no. All right, one left to go. There's not enough unobtainium left to run the time machine to waste it on going back to Waterloo. In my case. That's what the Napoleon director says to people who criticize his movie. Yep. You think Phil Barker's pig-headed. Oh, man. So I had an interesting experience a couple weeks ago with a daughter. She's in college, and she's not really, doesn't really follow the news on her own, and she was getting some really crazy one-sided stuff from her peers, and luckily I raised her right, so she didn't jump to conclusions that she knew what her peers were talking about. But I'm not really afraid of my daughter going and turning into some typical college revolutionary. But I'm like, all right, if that's what you think, let's watch some videos and tell me what you think. So I had to detox her from that. You know, everybody's got an agenda. They want you to twist things into what they want to think that things are, and you got to keep a little bit more of an open mind and look at all sides. There's always somebody trying to push their lies on you. I thought Napoleon the movie was dreadful. Having my 87 father beside me in the cinema during the love scenes was something I shall never forget. So, was my dad 87? My dad was pretty close to 87. Let's see, past one was 90. So my dad was pretty close to 87 when he might have been like 88 or something like that. And he was always, my dad was big into history, but he wasn't like a World War II or war type of person. He didn't have a problem watching it, but that wasn't really his main thing. For some reason, he always had a thing about explorers, and I remember he had a thing about Marco Polo or something like that. So when he was older, in the last couple of years, we're sitting at his house and like, hey, let's watch this new Marco Polo movie that came up on Netflix. Little did I know, it's basically soft porn. That was uncomfortable. That was really uncomfortable. And let's just say we didn't finish watching it. Oh no, the Red Guards want a recruiting drive. There's some crazy stuff, man. There's some crazy things, you know. She was like crazy stuff. I'm not worried about her turning into one of those loons. Oh man. But it's funny because she tells me about her roommates, and one of them is just like a raging, like, social justice warrior. And it's like the problem they have is not that they have this opinion, but they don't want to even have a discussion. It's just basically like, that's not how it is. If you think that way, you can't be talked to. Instead of like, let's have a reasonable discussion, because they probably have some good points, you know? But you know, if you're not willing to have a discussion, then you're just basically being manipulated by somebody else. So, yeah, my daughter's not turning into a red anytime soon. But that's the problem, is they just only see it from one side, you know. There's people on the extremes or bad, but they always want to push one extreme. And no, I don't think so. She'll tell me like, Daddy, I can't tell any of my friends at school that we went to the range. I'm like, why? I said, oh, because they think I'm some kind of lunatic. I'm like, where do these people come from, you know? We're not throwing people out of helicopters. You know, we're shooting at cardboard safely, responsibly. Oh, well, I'm from a different age, and I wanted to be an adult in the 80s, not now. There's some balloons running around now. Maybe they're always running around. I don't know. I'm too old to be drafted or manipulated. This is the last one. Man, these guys are looking good. I wish you guys could see how. You know, it's like if you dry brush, the more levels of dry brush you add to it, one level of dry brush is almost like nothing, you know. So just add some variance in there to promote some interest in there. Go forward painting. Painting away. Yeah, I haven't painted in like 2 months. Therapy. Well, you know what? I'm going to keep going. Feed going okay for you guys? I'm going to commit the sin of leaving these two paints out because I'll need them soon. That's how it starts. But we're going to put them over here where they're front and center. And then we're going to take the two T3485s and we're going to paint some road wheels on the tracks on these guys and do the same thing. Mr. SU100 can go out of here. Yeah, now I'm in a good mood. I was a little grumpy today. You know, you say you have a day off and you don't have anything to show for it. German gray, that's not black. Black should be down here at the bottom. This is where I kind of put my common colors. There it is. And road wheels and track. Let's do the road wheels first. And we're going to need to get a thinner brush and the flow aid. I'm not going to put the, I'm not going to bring the palette out for that. I think we're okay. Not using that, but I am going to put it on something it doesn't absorb as much. So what the hell, you guys? What all my regulars been doing since I haven't been on here? Because that's what I used to do. When I used to work on stuff, you know, I can listen to books on, I always call it books on tape, but I can always listen to things on Audible, but listening to somebody else's feeds, what I like to do as well, while I'm working on my hobby stuff. What rules? Well, I could tell you, but that's not going to make any sense to you because they're not available anymore. They're Canadian rules, or, well, I don't know if they're Canadian rules, but the author's Canadian, and they're out of print. They've been out of print for a while. They're called The Face of Battle. and 1-to-1 scale, 1-to-1 ground scale also. So in other words, this is 1/72nd scale, 1/76, 20 millimeter, any of those. So these are basically, it's an inch is 2 meters. So these are equal, but it's like for skirmish stuff. It's to, we're not gonna. You have all these vehicles, you're not gonna use them all at the same time. I'm just kind of building models because I have all these tanks, and then we'll have different paint schemes. But if you had like 5 tanks on board, you're really gonna drag things out. Because you've got actions for each individual person in the tank as well. It's a slow moving game, but that's the level of detail that I'm interested in. I was playing a game of Flames of War several months ago, earlier this year, and I found out that all the German long 50 millimeter tanks are the same. I'm like, you're out of your mind. Like, I can't play this game. I can't play this game if you're telling me a J with the 50 caliber with a 60 caliber 50 millimeter gun is treated the same as an L, an M. No, that's not for me. That's not my kind of game. So it doesn't interest me in doing any kind of creativity for a game that vague. Now you could say, well, why did you do it for DBA? And that's a good question, because I put a lot of hours into painting those armies and putting a lot of details into the shields and stuff like that when none of it really matters. Where a Roman blade is the same as a 100 Years of War English blade. Why even bother doing all the heraldry? And that's a good point. Maybe that's why I don't do that anymore. I don't want to go through all that kind of detail, which I don't regret doing the detail. It's the learning part. But then to translate into nothing into the game, I need a game with more detail. So, just think of this as I'm building models, and then maybe one day I'll play something with them. But, the people that build models on 1/35th scale, they don't do jack shit with them. Work a solo 3K game and haven't painted much in the last 2 months either. Actually been gaming more, played some Art de la Guerre this week, had a few games of Future War Commander. The only gaming I've been doing is on the console, playing Diablo 4. That's the only gaming I've been doing. And that doesn't scratch the itch of this. But I wasn't staying away because, I'm not going to do this anymore. I've got to do this or I'm going to turn into a crazy person. And I don't mean that in a good way. Oh, how did I only do one side? Man. Well, I caught myself. No harm, no foul. So we should be on tomorrow morning, normal time. Get back to doing some evening thing. I just had to rip the Band-Aid off. Like, everything's not exactly where it needs to be in place here. But it's good enough that we need to start doing this on a regular basis, because I really missed it. So sure enough, earlier this year when I said, well, I should be going to Europe or whatever, if I get to go, I was right. We didn't get to go. The cruise was canceled several months ago. The ship was not going to be in the place that it was supposed to be. At the time they said they were going to do it. But they told us like 6 months in advance. So first of all, it didn't surprise me, which nothing surprises me after the whole the year of the COVID. Anything is possible. So, which the drawback for that, if COVID has the whole COVID thing had a lot of repercussions. The repercussion it had for me is I don't get excited about something that's happening in the future because I know that the rug can get pulled out from under you. That's really the only repercussion, that it had for me. So, sometimes the problem is I'll go on a trip and I don't even enjoy myself because I'm just waiting for the other shoe to fall and something get pulled out from under me. So I'm not surprised. As a matter of fact, the cruise we were supposed to go on, the vessel that we're on, it was not going to be in the Mediterranean at the end of this year. The last cruise that's going on just happened right now. It was like the same ship, which my mother-in-law ended up going on, and she said that it was a shit show. They weren't able to go to a port that they were planning on going to, and they had to make changes, and things aren't how they used to be, and so I don't really mind that I didn't get to go, because who wants to spend that kind of money on an experience that's not grand, so I do miss the DBA games and Mitch's feet. It's okay if you're into feet, but why his? I know you're being facetious, I hope. Bronze Age beatdowns, yeah. You've gone big and simple ancients with to the strongest. I've heard some good things about that. I don't mind playing other things. I just don't want to. I don't want to be the point guy on it. Like I've got impetus, basic impetus. I bought the rules. I printed them. In full color. They're gorgeous. I just don't have it in me to sit down and rack my brain trying to figure out how to play it. I just, that's going to keep me from doing this. If I'm going to rack my brain anything, it's learn how to do this again, instead of doing it on something that's abstract. So, and the reality is, if I had still been doing ancients, I would have had 2 more DBA armies done. Instead, I've got 100 vehicles. And I got to learn about all kinds of other stuff that I hadn't read about in a long time. So I don't mind it. It's funny because about 6 or 7 years ago, I was thinking, I'm never going to play World War II again. I'm never going to work on my World War II stuff again. No. Careful what you say, because you never know. But it's nice to not have to be responsible for a whole community pushing a game that you can play thousands of times and still have a difference of opinion of what the sentence says. It's just not worth it anymore. And work has been so freaking busy, and just seems to get busier every single day. So I'm certainly not looking for anything that is going to involve more arguments or extra work on my end. So. And just like I predicted, the person that took over the DBA stuff, they still haven't put all the results and stuff up on all the sites that I used to do. And I'm not saying that it took a lot of work. like the convention's over, you got to put everything on, and then you got to update all these different sites and everything, and it's effort I could be using towards, working towards therapy, not something that's, frustrating. So glad you said that. I felt the same way with impetus, hard to pick up cold. Yeah, it's just, as you get older, you're just like, it isn't worth it, you know? Um, if I want to bad enough, sure. I just don't want to bad enough. I just don't want to bad enough. I don't go to game mode. I'm on Mondays because Mondays is like the busiest day at work. So I have to rush all day and then not get any sleep. And it's literally like the worst day it could be for me, even though somebody else has it off. It's just not worth it. I just don't want to bad enough, you know? So I've told my wife for years, I'll say something, hey, I think I'll get one of these. Can I get one? She's like, sure. I said, okay, I just wanted to know. I said, if I want something, you'll know. I'm not good at mincing words. So I tease her about stuff like that all the time. Hey, can I get a new computer? I've been talking about getting a new computer for 8 years before I got one. I said, I'll get one when you'll know when I really want one. If their computer burned out in 2014, it wasn't in, no, 2012. And I didn't have a home computer until 2020. You had your phone. Your phone does 90% of what I was doing on the computer anyways. It wasn't until we were doing this kind of filming that I could like justify, like, okay, I'm going to be using a computer all the time. I don't mind spending the money for it, you know. But like computer gaming, I hardly use the computer for gaming. It just isn't worth it. To the strongest grid removes so much hassle, and you can use impetus style bases where your pain could shine. So what I was planning on doing with impetus is, since you're familiar with impetus, I'll mention this to you. Impetus uses double the size of DBX spacing, right? So if you're looking at a stand of skirmishers, instead of it being two guys on one stand that's 40 by 20, it would be two wide and two deep, okay? So I was thinking, why don't I just have all the ranges? Because I don't mind the look of the DBA armies. I really don't. Could it look more glorious? Sure, but then that's less armies I'm doing. I would rather have more variety and be able to paint, Romans and knights and and Japanese, Chinese armies, Mongols, different kind of stuff. I'd rather do that than just be like all in. Like, I mean, it already takes me half a year to build a DBA army. I certainly don't want to work on one army for 3 years. So I was like, okay, I could do impetus, have all the ranges, right, and just play with the stands that I have, and almost all of the DBA armies I have can translate to impetus armies. As a matter of fact, some of them might even have some extra elements, and just try the rule set like that. And I just never got around to it, you know. I just never got around to it. The biggest problem that I had with stuff like DBA or something like that wasn't necessarily that there was issues that came up, but that you couldn't solve them so that they wouldn't come up again. So in other words, after playing just shy of 3,000 games, still stuff would still come up that you'd still have to explain to people that people would want to like argue with you about how it is. Not most people, but it would just be like, having to retrain people how to do that. And I already have to do a lot of that at my paying job, and I absolutely hate it. So it's just one of those things that I just over time really disliked having to do all the time. And it wasn't like, okay, I'm just going to fix the rule book. I understand that this isn't exactly, people are getting confused, so let's rework it. And you can't do that. You can't, so you'd always have these problems that always would creep up, and there's no way to, it's like you're playing whack-a-mole all the time, you know? Um, that was probably the biggest reason I'm not playing DBA. That's probably the biggest reason. The second biggest reason is I just was never going to do World War II stuff because it's just so intensive on, and it can't be like, oh, I'll just spray them this and dip them. I'm gonna paint them the best I can, or I'm not gonna paint. I'm not a. I don't go for the Picasso excuse. You know what the Picasso excuse is, right? I'd say, Picasso doesn't know how to fucking paint. And other people will say, well, he can. He just decided not to go that way. That's like, okay, I can paint like Michelangelo, but I'm too fucking lazy. So I'm just going to just throw paint on there like shit. Well, that's what you're going to be remembered as, somebody who doesn't paint well. I want to do the best I freaking possibly can and try to get better. I look at somebody else's painting, and if I see somebody's stuff, and I see it all the time, these guys that are like super geniuses, I don't go like, I'm giving up painting. I go like, F you, we're taking this to another level. I find it encouraging, you know. I'm sure athletes are the same way. Like, man, I just ran a 5.4 or whatever. I'm great. And then somebody runs faster than them. Okay, well, I got to get a better game. That's how I think of it. So I don't go for the Picasso excuse that, I could take longer, but I'm just going to go ahead and just dip them and just do that. Hey, if that works for you, that's cool. That does not work for me. That's the best way I can think of me getting unhappy with a hobby and not being proud of what I did. But, you need to be happy with whatever level it is that makes you happy with. But that's I can tell you right now, that's going to be that's how I get out of the hobby. Like, screw it. If I'm just going to be like, I'm just going to spray paint these and dry brush them, and I'll have lots of things, but they're not going to look my best. I'm just not interested in doing that kind of going down that road. Roger that micro scale impetus. Yeah, it sounds like it would work in theory. Back and now look at you painting. Where'd you go? You trying to work today? TGIF, baby. No more Fridays. Not working any more Fridays. So we weren't able to go on that trip we're supposed to, which is the blessing of it is it would have been way too long. It would have been like from the 15th of December until like the like the 7th or 8th of January. And which is a nightmare do it for work. Just a nightmare for work. So we're taking a much shorter one, and I'm not going to tell you where it is until I'm on it. Like I've said before, if I tell you I'm going to do A, or I'm planning on doing A, and I can't do A, trust me, I'm the first one that's disappointed and pissed. Because I got to do a lot of planning at work, and everything goes sideways at work. So when I'm not at work and things go sideways, it's against my wishes. But that's just how life is. Like if we go on a trip somewhere, we're like, okay, we're going to go here. What are you going to do there? We'll wing it. Because then everything works out. You don't have this idea, okay, well, we're going to go to France and we're going to go on the Eiffel Tower. We're going to go on the Eiffel Tower at 11 a.m. on a Tuesday, but the sky better be clear. And you get there and you plan everything around that. And then it's a cloudy sky. And then you're pissed off because you just have to be flexible. Like, okay, we're going to go to Paris. What are you going to do? We'll figure it out as we go, it's just happier that way, Interesting. I do have to admit, trying plow through painting backlog. Yeah, you just have to find a way to do what makes you happy. And having a bunch of things that are unfinished doesn't make me happy. Having a paint area that is just cluttered with shit and I can't think, or a painting desk that has paint all over it, it doesn't work for me. And I'm not a neat freak or anything, but I just distract easy. And I went on last week. One of the almost guaranteed 4-day weekends we have is over Thanksgiving. And I actually took the Monday after Thanksgiving off, trying to use some of these vacation days that I wasn't going to need for this trip that we weren't going to go on. And I went on Thanksgiving Day. I didn't need to, but I did. And there was nobody there in the office, obviously. And for 2.5 hours, I kicked total and complete ass. And it felt great because it feels good to kick ass no matter what it is you're doing. Whatever it is that you do, try to do your best, or just don't do it, because it feels good to do a good job. So completing things, it's like, okay, I'm done with that. I did the best I could. I've moved on. I'm happy with them. Cool. That feels great. We can put them in a case there, and I can go back and look at them 3 years from now and go, man, that's great. That's the best. I did the best that I could. Back, way back when. I look at some of my figures that I painted over 20 years ago, and I'm like, this is as good as anything I do now. The basing sucks, because we didn't have that information, but those kind of details, but it feels good to do a good job. That's why I couldn't do Picasso. Like, I can paint better. Well, then do it. Just like I took my daughter to earlier this year to move into college, and move-in day was there. And I saw so many kids that weren't doing the best they could with what they were given. I mean, it's just like, I could present myself decently, but I'm going to just look like a complete slob. Like, why? I mean, we're not all movie stars, so just do the best you can with what you have, and that's all you can do, I don't know, maybe my way of thinking is not in vogue anymore, but hey, I'm over 50. I can be a crotchety bastard, right? I don't feel like it. I still feel like I'm 25 years old, but don't think like the 25-year-olds of today, that's for sure. Okay, I think we got all of that. The obligatory Soviet saws that they have bolted on their vehicles. Okay, next, Zitraken. What was that second thing that was in that Soviet movie? I can't remember. Oh, they had a bunch of GAZ trucks, 2x2s. The ones that are based on the Model A's. I think it's the Model A's. Okay, so that is the track base color is the racistly known SS Camel Black, which I believe is this one. There it is. Which they renamed German dark brown something or another, but this is the old one, SS Camel Black. No doubt this is one of the colors on their smock. This is a job for the needler. Yeah, we're going to need a fan in here. There's a lack of air circulation in here. At least right now, but I don't think we need something on the roof. I think something just to move the airflow a little bit. It's not too bad. It is the coldest room in the house, but I definitely warm. If I had a superpower, my superpower would be to warm things up. I'm always warm. Always warm. Almost always. My daughter, too. My daughter's of the same mindset. She's always got to have the fan on all the time. That's why if we ever go to the Caribbean, we don't go in the summer. Like, okay, Caribbean's plenty hot already. Don't need to do that in the summer. You're going to get going. Got to go buy some popsicle sticks. Catch up sometime soon. Okay, man. Thanks for coming by. Good having you come on again. I told you I'd be back. I guess the feed's working okay. I wonder if that download stopped. Let me go check on that. No, it's still doing its thing. It's about 75% done. I appreciate you guys coming in and tuning in, so I'm not just talking to myself. Well, I am talking to myself, but you know. So having this flow aid here to mix in with the paint makes a huge difference because it gives the paint, it gives the acrylic paint, and you don't have to mix it. I mean, if you look at the instructions for this, it's like stupid. Like mix 1 part flow aid to 20 parts water. Okay, so first of all, I'm using it 20 times more concentrated than they're supposed to, right? Who cares? I've had this thing for 5 years or so, and I've used a third of it. Okay, so if this is being wasteful, sue me, you know. But it just allows the paint to, it just almost like breaks the surface tension and allows the paint to flow a lot smoother, almost like a thinned down enamel. And I just decided to try it one time. It was because of this mixture that I made when I first started airbrushing, my first iteration in airbrushing. I watched this video of this guy like, oh, you could just make your own thinner, and he happened to call it Jesus juice, I remember. And one of the ingredients was this Liquitex Flow Aid. So I have all this Flow Aid left over, and I'm like, well, let's try using it with something, and voila, you know, it ended up having more uses than just what I had bought it for. So I'm definitely going to be buying more of it. 15 years from now when I run out of this stuff at the rate that I'm going. But it just keeps the paint from, you know, sticking, so to speak. The paintbrush from sticking to and then pulling it along just allows for a smoother application. I've been really happy with it. But, you know, to go and put it in some other receptacle that it's mixed to 1 to 20, that's just too anal retentive. I ain't got time for all that. You know, I got to cut some corners. That's the corner I decide to cut. I'm not cutting other corners. So anytime you're applying this over something that has a surface that's full of detail that may cause like a bubble to form, this keeps it from forming as easily. At least that's what I've noticed over the years. And like I said, it's something that I already had, so why not use it? And instead of having some product that I bought for one use, wasn't really happy with it, and then just never used it again. I need to get more of this stuff to come out. Or just switch to a new bottle. I think I'll do that. Is it this one? I think it's this one. Yep. Now it's called German Camouflage Black Brown. The SS are no more. But like I said earlier, we should be back on the regular schedule now. I just needed to rip the Band-Aid off and let's start painting again. And I figured I'd go ahead and do it on a day that I needed to do something productive. There's nothing like taking a day off and then not doing anything with that day. Like let's have something to show for it. Well, see, tomorrow morning we're probably going to paint the markings on these other two T34s. I'll surf around on my phone. That's what I usually like to do. I don't use the computer much for surfing, not the home computer. I'm really leery of, some things are easier to do on computer and some things are easier to do on your phone. And surfing around and looking at things on Pinterest or YouTube or something like that, it just seems like it's a lot easier to do on your phone than it is on the computer. Where you're liable to go to a site that has questionable material, not necessarily questionable material, but that has viruses and shit like that. Has a bunch of clicking things. Just in my experience, it's just a lot easier to do on your phone. Just like if you've got Netflix or something like that on your television or at home, it's a lot easier to go on your phone and search for the show you want to watch, see that it's there, and then go and find it on the TV instead of using that menu on the TV that's not as quick to react. It's a lot easier to do on your phone. There you are. About time you woke up. What's up, man? So I got a question for you. So I know you're a big fan of. Oh no, it's not you. It's Rick of Skyrim. Um, yeah, I know you like that Elder Scrolls. So the download I'm doing is I'm downloading Elder Scrolls, and it's free. So I guess what I got to lose other than the download time. I don't have high hopes because it's a Bethesda game, and for some reason they just don't. I just don't. I haven't been a fan of them. But this isn't going to be one of those games where you get to pick. You know that people like to play it because you can play a half dragon, half orc, transgender, sit down to pee type of character. Is it? I had I had seen so much backlash of people talking bad about Diablo 4, how it was no good, and then they're like singing the praises of the what's this new thing that just came out, the Baldur's Gate. But Baldur's Gate is famous for, you know, the D&D, and they're famous for all that kind of stuff. You know, you can play some a mixture of, you know, half unicorn, half wildebeest, um, you know, weird shit. Like, how about you just play a freaking human, man? I mean, do you not want to be a human? I'm thrilled that I got to be born as a human. You know, you've been up a bit, just popped on for going to this Elder Scrolls game are fun but repetitive. But isn't Skyrim the same world? Is it a totally different game? I don't know. I don't mind playing games that have multiplayer stuff. I just don't like games where you have you have to interact socially with someone you're never going to meet. Like if I was going to play a game on a console and you were playing too, I mean, I kind of know you. That would be okay. But just some random person that would be doesn't give a shit if they disconnect the game from me because they're never going to meet me. It's just like kind of like a lack of honor kind of thing. You know, it just like it doesn't interest me to play a game with somebody I'm never going to meet. You know, shouldn't be. You should only be able to choose male or female in your race, and then what the? Well, you know, I got to download. So what the hell? So yeah, it was just one of those free. They changed how they did things on Xbox. They changed their. I'm sure it's like Disney where they changed it and it's worse. It's worse for the consumer, but you get you get I don't know 20 or so free games to try out, and that just happens to be one of them. And I'm like, what the hell, you know? It's got supposedly enhanced graphics, and one of the things of the move was we went and got a new TV, and I got the new Xbox Series X, which the 4K graphics are insane. They're just the problem with it is the human body is an amazing thing that gets accustomed to anything. So as soon as you get used to something, it's better. What you had before, which was fine, now looks like a piece of shit. But that's how we survived the Ice Age. At least that's my theory, anyways. Adaptability. So yeah, you get used to playing Diablo 4 on the Xbox One, not in 4K graphics, and then you get the new Xbox with 4K graphics, and Diablo 4 looks freaking amazing. It looks 10 times better and runs 5 times better. So I'm like, okay, well, let's see what this Elder Scrolls thing is. And, you know, it's free. What do you got to waste? A download. I don't have that much stuff on it. And it's just something to, you know, the video games don't keep me interested like they used to. I can do them for about an hour. And after that, I'm like, okay, I need to do something real, you know. Yeah, I don't have interest in playing games with people I don't know. Yeah, Skyrim is the same world, just based in the Skyrim province of Tamriel. Okay. Okay. You can play male or female. Are the females cute? Because I'll play a female character, but they got to be hot. I'm just saying, especially if it's like isometric. So in other words, if you're looking through it like a simulator, like through the person's eyes, doesn't matter what you are, right? It's not you get down. It's not like you look down and you got like a ample bosom or something like that. You're not going to see anything. But if you got to look at the character from behind, yeah, I'd rather look at a girl's body. Sorry, not going to lie to you. you know. What was that game? Assassin's Creed? The Assassin's Creed, the Greek one, Odyssey. Yeah, I play the female character. She's hot, you know. Doesn't mean I want to be a woman. Just means, you know, if I'm going to look at somebody's rear for 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 hours, I'd rather it be a girl's rear. Just saying. Your vehicle females are not my bag, but I suppose some would consider attractive. Well, we'll see what I can come up with. So one of those games where you get to pick your class and stuff like that. The problem is if you have a class you have a lot of freedom in creating your class. It reminds me of this. There's this pizza place here in town. It's a chain. They may have it up in Pennsylvania. It's called Blaze Pizza. Okay, and you go in there and you basically pick everything. Like, okay, I want this crust. I want this sauce. I want these toppings. And the problem is that there's things that you may think are always awesome on a pizza. So you get them every time. So you end up creating this flavor that always tastes like the previous one instead of expanding your horizons a little bit. So when you play a game like, say, Diablo, for instance, you know, I like to play all the characters because it's a totally different experience. You know, some guys can't stand up in a fight. You got to run away. So it's a different way of experiencing the game. If you're playing a game like, and there's this game called Titan Quest, which is a ripoff of Diablo 2, and it made the game a lot better. But instead of it being its fantasy world that Diablo is, Titan Quest was basically built around Greek, Persian, and Chinese mythologies. And they did a really, really good job with it. The graphics are dated by today's standards, but the storyline of it was really cool. But the way you created that character is you were either male or female, and you basically could craft whatever class you wanted. So you ended up almost like there was no reason to replay the game with a different character because it was like the same experience. So that was kind of the bum factor of that, at least for me, because I do like to play every character. Now, there's some type of characters that I like more than others, but, you know, if they all end up being vanilla or vanilla-ish, there's no reason to replay the game with another character, at least in my opinion. Very confused. I've been meaning to ask you what didn't like about season 3 of The Boys. I got like into 3 episodes and I just kind of lost interest. I don't know. I mean, hey, I'm a huge proponent of the show. I don't know. I just, you know, I almost shut the damn thing on right off the gate. I almost shut the damn thing off right out of the gate of season 3. Oh, I don't know that I didn't like it. I just lost interest. I think I've seen like 8 episodes or 9 or something like that. It's 10 or less, and I'm 2 or 3 into it, and I just maybe too much of the same thing. I tell you, the funniest part was I almost peed myself with Black Noir and the Almond Joy. That's the kind of shit I like. That's the kind of shit I like. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. But it's basically Deadpool times 10. It's extremely graphic. It's extremely hilarious at times, you know. But I didn't necessarily dislike it. I just kind of lost interest in it. But there's not a whole lot of TV things I think worth watching. I'd rather do this, or I'd rather play a video game, or or sit on my back porch now that I have one with some scotch and relax than sit there and watch something that's already been made. You know, mainly because I don't really have anybody in this house that we have similar TV viewing stuff. I mean, my wife will watch stuff, but she's all about the Christmas Hallmark movies, and I'm not watching that stuff. She can't watch anything that's like a thriller or action or stuff like that. I can get my daughter to watch it, but she'll be here in a couple days, so we'll probably pick up watching Generation War, which she really liked the first 30 minutes of. I told her that this is like one of the best World War II things, and even for girls, there's girl stuff in there that's appealing to them. It's not like it's just a bunch of guys running around in foxholes kind of thing, you know. Season 3's felt like an endless woke SJW. I haven't come across anything in that show that's a social justice, but I don't really care because that can't be contaminated to me, you know. The dude jumping in the guy and sneezing. Oh, I thought that was hilarious. I thought it was hilarious. That was really, really funny, but not something I want to see with my daughter. Oh well. I don't know that I have seen. I don't know that I have seen any programming. I don't recall seeing any programming that I thought was social justice warrior stuff that really offended me. Because I can't be contaminated. I'm too old. I'm already set in my in my old ways. I'm from the '70s and the '80s, so that stuff doesn't fly with me. And as long as you make fun of everybody, I'm okay with it. I have a bigger issue with something like that likes to show all humans as bad and aliens good. I have more of a problem with that. People that are apologists for being humans, and there's bad humans out there. I get it, but as a whole, take any other species on the planet. If they were on the same tier that the humans are, I'll guarantee that they would be worse than the humans. And there's bad people out there. There's no doubt about it. But there's a lot of good people out there. So I have a problem with that more than anything else. The reimagining of stuff, and I just, I just don't get it. Most programming, I don't really care for anyway. So, Generation War, it's excellent. It's really, really good. Although I did catch in 1941, there was a T-34-85 that was smoldering. Okay, there's that, and they had an MG-42 when they didn't. Other than that, I thought it was really solid. I thought it was really, really solid. Season 3, but it's definitely the weaker season so far. Yeah, well, shows, and movies, as they do sequels or repeat seasons, they tend to get weaker. Video games tend to get stronger, generally speaking. That's almost always the case. You just run out of ideas. They're like, oh, they really love this, so let's throw this shitty. It's like, I'm gonna make you a great sandwich. Oh man, they ate it up. All right, well, what if I just throw peanut butter on there? Are these people stupid and they just want, just something just easy to eat, and then just, they're trying to make a buck. We want good programming, But yeah, my daughter was really interesting. I went to we went to a theme park with her 2 weeks ago, and she was telling me the stuff. She asked me, "Hey, what's going on in the Middle East?" And then she told me what. She's just doing school stuff. She's not involved in all these protest things or really worried about current events, which honestly is probably better because you're getting so much misinformation on there. But she told me what her roommates were telling her to think, and it's just like, it's a good thing I raised her right. If you have kids, you need to make sure that you instill some thinking skills in them before they get contaminated in university. So I'm like, okay, look, if that's what you think, let's watch some videos, and then you tell me what you think after seeing the videos. that are on, mainstream television, you know, the same place you're supposedly getting this other stuff. It's like, well, they didn't tell me that. I said, yep, that's why you gotta, if somebody says something you need to, that seems off, you need to investigate further, not take somebody's word for it. There's always people pushing agendas. I can only imagine how season 4 is going to be since it's likely a victim of the strikes on Hollyweird. Yeah. Well, I watch so little programming on television that I forgot there was a strike. Doesn't really affect my life any. I thought you didn't have access to Amazon. I'm glad you do. I was saying earlier that I watched 75% or maybe 66.6% of something like that of this Polish movie called Warsaw 44 that's on Amazon. And they did one of those sins which is using non-period music in the show. That's why I didn't finish watching that Desert Rats, that long range desert group thing, whatever the hell it was called. Watched 2 episodes of it or an episode, and I'm like, okay, I don't want to watch this anymore. Main reason was that, but yeah, if you haven't seen that, I didn't really care for it very much. Gen Z's last generation should be telling anyone how to think. They barely know their arse from their face. Yep. Yep. It was interesting. In the last week, I came across what's the name of this? What's the name of it? Some influencer girl or whatever. It's just some Generation Z girl that's supposedly in the army that's trying to get all these to recruit these Generation Z guys, and it's just like some hot 21 or 22-year-old that's just like who's the girl off of Borderlands? Tiny Tina. She's like freaking Tiny Tina, like a hot Tiny Tina, just like to try to influence these gamer nerds to go and join the freaking army. And I'm like, that's your recruiting tactics, I'm like, show somebody with a loose cannon and using firearms. That's a good idea. Not. Picked up Amazon a couple months ago. Forgot the boys on until recently. You should have said Hot Blonde is the main character. I would have given it a whirl. The funny thing is when when they were doing the previews of it, before I saw it, I'm like, she's gonna really annoy me. And she's actually okay. I don't know how she is in season 3, but she's actually okay. Yeah, she's pretty cute. Yeah, she's pretty attractive. Got a super cute face, so. Michael, when Tone Aguilar saw 44 and I, as a Polish dude, never seen it. Well, that's okay. I mean, maybe you didn't have access to it, Maybe you didn't have access to it. Yeah, it's got a love story in it. He goes for the wrong girl. The brown-haired girl's cuter than the blonde girl that's in there. But that's just my particular taste. But the modern music killed it for me. But you know what? It did do its job in that I learned about the Polish uprising and or learned more about the Polish. It's not really my area that I know about. It's too late in the war for me to be super interested in it. And like I said, I looked into it, and I had always thought, or I had always heard that it was like they did this uprising. The Russians, instead of coming to help, they just basically said, all right, go ahead and kill these Poles, Germans. We'll hold off so that we don't have to fight them later. And, I'm always suspect of Soviet intentions, anyways. Not that the Nazis are much better or any better. But and then I looked into it, and apparently that's some people were saying no, they were at the end of their supply line, and that negates the fact that Modal did some huge counterattack or whatever that was brilliant. So I looked into that, and it got me to read about history, through neutral source, neutral-ish source. So, but all I can tell you is I refuse. I refuse to build Soviet vehicles with Polish markings on them because they deserve better than that. Because the Soviets did screw them big time by, double teaming on. That's why I'm not particularly sympathetic. Now, the ground pounders, the ground soldiers in every nation got screwed. There's no doubt about that. And civilians suffered. But as a nation, I am not particularly sympathetic to the Soviets getting invaded in Barbarossa because they made a deal with the devil. They made a deal with the devil. They screwed other people in the process. The Poles, the Finns, the Poles, and the Baltic countries. And then it was time to pay back. I can't really be sympathetic to the Soviets. Now, that's just me. I'm not exactly friendly to the communists. Doesn't mean I like the other guys either. But I'm just saying that Anyhow. I'm not doing Soviet Pole stuff. They free Poles, absolutely. Well, the only reason I don't do free Poles is that they basically use. I would do Poles in '39. That would be the Poles I'd do. I do the Poles in '39 because they were cool. They have their own equipment. They have their own vehicles. The Germans are lame because I don't do Germans with white crosses. It just looks stupid. Like, what is this, the Swiss Army? So I guess I could probably just paint them for 1940 and still do Germans. Still do Germans. I'm just not gonna give them white crosses. That just looks dumb as hell. But the Poles in '39 are cool, and everybody likes playing the Poles. So anyhow. You called dibs on Starlight. To be honest, our modern cinema is mostly trash. One exception is Peasants from this year. I'll have to check it out. Tony, listen to the Sabaton song about the Warsaw Uprising. If you like World War II stuff, The Four-Tank Crewman and a Dog is a classic. That sounds like a Soviet film. Pro-Soviet propaganda all the way, but just a classic. I can still watch it. I'm not going to get contaminated. There are people who saw that in Mongolia and Germany. Yeah. I'm working my way through a Soviet film. I watched half of it this morning while the car was being serviced. And it's called something like, it's on Amazon right now, and it's called something like On the Road to Berlin or something like that. And it's, it had some interesting equipment. There was a KV-2 that they mishmashed from like a T-72 hull. They did a pretty good job of it. One thing I'll give the Soviets, they at least make an attempt to make things look like what they're supposed to. And they did a pretty good job with that. And there was some other thing that I was mentioning earlier. I don't know what the hell it was, but there was some other vehicle that was that they had kind of tried to kludge together that looked like they had done a pretty good job with. But the problem with this pro-Soviet propaganda is that everything is hunky-dory until the Germans came. That's the problem I have with it. I don't have a problem with the vengeance or, because I get it. I mean, the Germans come in and they raped and pillaged and worse. Yeah, well, no shit. You need to spin the other side that we need to give payback. I don't have a problem with that. I have a problem with that, everything was, we were living in paradise until the Germans came, There's a Polish war game, First to Fight, 172nd, maybe your taste. So, no, I do have one of their vehicles. I do have a Czech 38, and I'll probably be getting more of their vehicles. They're a little bit difficult to put together. I don't mean for me. I just mean that they're not as easy to put together. Whatever. I've looked at the game. It's way too basic for my taste. But I'll buy their stuff. You know. Um, yeah. If you watch that Warsaw 44, when you see the demolition tank scene, first of all, it's like a tank. I'm like, that looks like a demolition tank. And then something happens, and I'm like, oh, I was right. And then they just went into like a horror movie. They went way over the top in their depiction of what happens next. And I'm like, come on, man. I mean, but anyways, I wouldn't do polls in 44 because it's just like painting Brits. They use the same kit as the Brits. They have the same, pretty much the same equipment. You know, it'd be like painting Canadians. Nothing against the Canadians, but you're basically painting Brits and just saying they're something different. I just want something that has a little bit more, you know. It'd be like doing French in 44. Like, why bother? I mean, unless you're doing Maquis, you know, you need to do 1940 French because otherwise they look just like, you know, they're wearing American gear and American tanks and that kind of stuff. So yeah, the models they're pretty cool. They look pretty nice. They just have some. Actually, the problem is the instructions. You got to be really. They're not really clear where some of the stuff goes. So they're like geared towards for beginners, but it's like no, that's pretty advanced. You have to, you know, check fitment twice and then glue once kind of thing. Okay, Nordic. Well, we should be back on regularly. I just needed to pull the band-aid off and just do a filming because, man, I really was missing working on this creative stuff. So yeah, if I'm going to do poles, I'm going to do 39 poles. You know, I'd build a Spitfire with the Polish. You know, the Poles did some kicked ass in some Spitfires, but plus they had that cool little checkerboard thing. Almost looks like the Purina, except the Purina symbol's 5, and that one's just 4. Two reds, two white type thing. But I'm not doing Polish T-34s that are, you know, liberating. They're liberating Poland. Yeah, from one hellhole into another, a different hellhole. Same thing with the Czechs. The Czechs had their own units or whatever. Supposedly they had their own units, but it's all fun and games until there's no more common enemy, and then they come after you. You know. Thanks a lot, pal. else do we have to do in this color? I think that's it. I think that's it. We need them to wait. We need these to dry a little bit. But, you know, I mean, I can't do anything, so I might as well put some rules in place that keeps me from excuses to not build anything. Like, I don't want to do any Lend-Lease tanks for the Soviets. I mean, why would I do Soviet Shermans? Why? You know, I mean, they were a very small amount of the tanks that they used, and you know, the U.S. and the Brits already used Shermans, so why create more Sherman users? It's not like they got painted anything cool or anything. It was like, there's no point in doing that. I'd do Studebaker trucks for them. That's about it. I don't want them using any Matildas or Valentines or Churchills, or there's just no reason to, you know. No, these are T-34 76s with the Chelyabinsk turret, the CHTZ turret. It was all made in the one factory. It's soft edge. Came out really late 42 and through Kursk, where they got used. And then these are T-34 85s. And these are all 176 scale from, I think these are all SHQ. Yeah, they're all SHQ. 176 scale. So, JS2s, I have 2 of them, and I haven't painted them yet. Let's go grab it. Well, you asked about them. Valentine, your favorite tank. You know, the Soviets liked the Valentine the best, which proved people used to do drugs in the 1940s. I don't like Valentines. I don't hate Valentines. I just don't like Valentines. It's slower than a Matilda. It probably, you know, it had better suspension to work on than a Matilda. If Matilda had a suspension breakdown, you're going to wish you were born in another country. That just looks like a nightmare, you know. At least the Valentine has similar suspension like the A9 and the A10, where you can get at stuff. Yeah, I don't like Valentine. I certainly don't like the Soviets using Valentine. Soviets with a 2-pounder? Come on, man. No HE. You asked about the JS2s. Let's see if I can find them easy. I should be able to. They're built. I got 2 of them built. They're good looking tanks. Wouldn't want to be in one of them though. Whew. They're not that big for heavy tanks, to be honest with you, because they're low to the ground. And they didn't have very many rounds of the 122 millimeter ammo. I think like 20 or something like that. Not very many. I got a slew of these Soviet trucks. Cute little. Reminds me of the trucks on the Waltons. Got to paint them up when I get my airbrush station going. They're all built. No, they're not in this drawer. I have a hard time calling them ISs. I always call them JSs. Because I don't speak Russian, so, you know. Here they are. Here's one of them. They're significantly bigger. And this is also 1/72nd scale instead of 1/76. So it's a little bit bigger, but still it's a bigger tank. So this is the same way as a Panther. 45 tons, which is pretty light for a heavy tank, considering KVs were heavier than that. KVs were in the, I want to say mid 50s, ton-wise. So, yeah, I can't remember whether or not the JSs had 2-piece 122 millimeter ammo. But regardless, the inside of one of those turrets got to be a mess. Although, to be honest with you, I can't imagine any turret being a fun experience. I can't imagine any of them being a fun experience when that thing goes off. Okay, So we got these three are pretty, this one's done, except for the exhaust. We got to put a machine gun in there. Some of the models didn't come with a machine gun, so I got to kludge one and put one in there. And then these have to dry a little bit. Let me go get a refill on the water. And yeah, I'm not really into World War II, but I have a soft spot for Soviet tanks, especially the stupid looking ones like KV-2 or T-34. T-34 is not stupid looking. I don't think so. Pretty standard looking. I mean, this big behemoth of a, this big old thing. There's your KV-2. Big nasty. So supposedly, if this was on any kind of a rise, the turret wouldn't be able to rotate very well. So if this is like in any kind of ground that's like just any kind of an angle like this, the turret would have a hell of a time rotating. Not a good sign. Be right back. Okay. Looks like a fridge with a cannon. Pretty much. The Char B is ugly as hell, but awesome. It is ugly as hell, but has a one-man turret, which is useless. T-34 looks like somebody made a destroyer ship on tracks. Really? I don't know. So the game that I play is really anal retentive and in scale, so you can really tell the difference between different weapon systems. And it's just not like, oh well, this has so many factors. So like in normal games, if you're playing normal games that are usually 1 to 5 scale or something like that, assuming that the crew aren't idiots or untrained, T-34 is a pretty impressive tanks. But one of the things that isn't taken into effect is that is the fighting conditions that the crew had to do. So if you look at a tank like this T-34, I think you can see it on the end here, it has a sloped armor, which is awesome because it means, I don't remember exactly what the armor on the T-34 is on the side, but let's say it's 40 millimeters, probably something like that. At an angle, it's really equivalent to like 60. So it gives you more bang for the buck of armor thickness and resistance to fire than it would if it was vertical surfaces like the Panzer 2s, 3s, and 4s, which basically have vertical surfaces. However, one of the things that isn't readily apparent is because it's sloped. It cuts into the space that the crew can work in. So, to give you an example, if you take a hole like this, and you may already know this, but it's not something you think about until you think about it. If you have a German tank, the hole starts here, the side hole. If it goes straight up vertically, this is area in here that you could store ammo, the crew are more comfortable working in. And when you have this slope, you have this area that's kind of in the corners where you can't really use to its full potential and you're cramped and everything. And that's why this is a 4-person tank instead of a 5-person tank. So the other disadvantage is because you're losing a guy. The person that you lose is you end up losing a gunner. So the commander of the tank doubles as the gunner for this vehicle. So you don't have someone whose sole responsibility is to make sure everything's in working order, spotting other vehicles, directing fire, that kind of stuff. You've got a tank commander who's trying to do all the tank commander duties, plus fire the gun as well. So that's one of those things that when you start looking at things from a tactical basis, the weapon systems are just kind of, those little details kind of come out. Like, for instance, the American tanks, the German tanks, some American tanks, Sherman, Panzer IV, Panzer III, some of the British tanks as well had radios, and they had a tank commander who his duty was just kind of to monitor everything, to just kind of keep everything together. And they had an advantage when you get to that type of tactical level. The early Soviet tanks, freaking insane armor. They had better guns than the Germans did early in the war. No radios, so they had to they were clunky. They had to manage things with flags. They had a lot of spare part problems in 1941, where a lot of their tanks really were on the books that were operational, and they would never make it into battle and stuff like that. So it's all important. But one of those things that you don't realize is the crew the fighting conditions of these sloped armor tanks is really restricted. So much so that a lot of the ammo that these T-34s had, they had stuff in the ready racks in the turret, but the rest of it is underneath the floor. And there was this rubber mat, and it's in one of my books. It's one of my favorite things that I like to read. One of my favorite trivia things of World War II is that they had these boxes that the shells were in that were underneath this rubber mat on the floor. The other thing is, if I remember correctly, the T-34 did not have a basket for the crew. I think. Don't quote me on this. One of the Soviet tanks did not have it. And what that means is, you've got your crew, which on German tanks and American tanks is 3 people. You've got the tank commander, you got the gunner, and you have the loader. They're all in the turret, and they all have a seat there, and they have a place for their feet to go. So when the turret rotates this way, they rotate with the turret, not with the hull. On the Soviet tanks, or at least on a T-34, there was no turret basket, which meant that when the tank turret rotated, they had to kind of go along with it, but they're still standing on the floor. Well, their ammo was on the floor, and to get to more ammo, they needed to pull up this rubber mat and then just a nightmare of crew fighting issues, which is one of the things why the Germans were more versatile early in the war, specifically, than the Soviets were, because they had all those crew. They had crews that were experienced. They had the fighting conditions of the Panzers, even though they didn't have better armor. They didn't have better mobility, and their guns weren't as good early in 41. Was that they had all those other things that were, I guess, would consider crew comfort and survivability. So that's just those things that you don't normally look at when you're looking at a game like Command Decision or something like that. It's like, oh, well, the Soviets have better, they have better guns, and they have better mobility, and they have better and they have better armor, which is all true if you're looking at it at that level. Confuse T-34. Yeah, you confuse the T-34 with this big boy. Where is she? Where is this land battleship? Yeah, this big old thing. And this is an exact scale because I got a deal on these things. These are actually 187th scale, and this is 176. So this should be, let's see, can I even do that on here? Okay, so if this is what size this tank is, this thing should look like, let's see, how can I do that? Move it over here and get it closer to the camera. It should be like this big when they're sitting on the same level. Yeah, that's a zoo. That's a zoo. But I think it did have a separate tank commander that didn't have to do anything else. But you got two people in this turret. You got a machine gunner here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a driver. It's like 10 crewmen, something like that. That's a zoo, And this thing didn't have better armor than a Panzer III. So it didn't have a lot of armor on it. It was just all over the place. So anyhow, yeah, land battleship. I like all the Soviet armor. It has character. Even these little guys. Even these cute little T-70s and T-26s and the Batushka. So, yeah, they're cool. And just because they're green doesn't mean they got to be boring. You could put different markings on them. You could put camouflage. I'm going to do some Soviet camouflage vehicles, but not until we get some more that are, more green ones. So, can't start off and doing all the weird stuff. It just looks odd to me. As you guys say in England, to my eye. It looks strange to my eye. I may not have a lot of armor or sense, but it had Daka Daka. Daka Daka. All right. Yeah, I think the T-34-85 is a really good looking vehicle. And it does have a 3-man turret, but now you got 85 millimeter shells. And this thing can go into a Panther. The other thing is the game that I'm doing, it's actual scale. So, if this vehicle was firing at this one, you're talking about shooting at something 10 meters away. Yeah, it definitely makes some of the smaller vehicles definitely more useful. But how long have we been on here? 3 hours? Excellent. Well, I'm probably going to wrap this one up because I still need these tracks to dry a little bit more. So for tomorrow morning, we've got these tracks we'll be able to do. Paint those up, put markings on the T-34s, put markings on the T-34-85s, and we should be on our way towards mounting these bad boys and putting them in the case with everything else. So this is the first of the 2 T-34-85s. I've got about 8 more to do. I got a deal on them. I wouldn't have bought this many of them. It would just happen to be an estate sale at a convention, and it's a scale that nobody does. Like nobody in the U.S. rarely does this scale, but I started with this scale back in the early 90s, before 15 millimeter World War II was really a thing, and I really like this scale. I like the 172nd, 176, 20 millimeters. So it it works for me. But I'll see you guys tomorrow morning if you guys are morning people, and if not, we'll be back on hopefully continuing this trend of now that we have